Got No Control Podcast, graffiti podcast for all graffiti writers. I got my boy Sloke, all the way from Austin, Texas. How you doing, brother? How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Out here in LA for the weekend, and I appreciate the opportunity to stop on by and talk some graph.
Definitely, brother. I appreciate you stopping by. Any projects that you've been working out here in LA?
Not really. I just came out here to see friends and paint, see some crew members, and just get out of Austin, man. Take a little break, and it's good to be back.
Definitely. Sometimes we need a break. Sometimes I be taking off from time to time too. So, brother, can you share a little bit about us? How long you been in the game, and how long you been painting for, if you don't mind?
Yeah, man. I started writing in Austin, Texas, and I was what would be what you would call second generation Austin, Texas.
Okay.
So for me, I credit the year I learned how to piece would be 1990.
1990.
I was doodling and tagging before that through skateboarding, but really when it came to like graffiti, I claim 1990 because that's when I met my mentor, Scam, S-K-A-M, Supreme King Al Martinez.
Okay.
And, you got to understand the scene in Austin was really, really small back then, very underground. And if you didn't know anyone, like you weren't getting in, and of course I tried doodling and all that, but, I was a toy. I was whack. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know. And when I met Scam, he showed me the basics of how to create a graffiti piece once. And he said, "You're on your own now." But basically, I was his mentee, because at that point, Scam had quit doing the streets and was doing more commission work. So I was his little helper. Or, you might say free labor. But it was an honor, you know what I'm saying? Because he was somebody that was opening the door for me to show me, like the basics of creating a piece. Besides, throwies and hand styles, He schooled me.
That's dope, man. Shout out him for taking the time to shed some light on you. Can you shed a little bit about the seed of Austin, Texas? I mean, I understand that it's a little bit different down there. For anybody out there that doesn't understand the movement and anything like that, can you share a little bit about the scene out there?
Sure, man. Austin, and to me, Austin's always been like a second tier city. You know what I'm saying? It was a college town. UT Longhorns. It was like a music town. A lot of artists, a lot of musicians. Back in the day, you could slack and still pay rent.
Yeah.
And when I mean back in the day, I'm talking more 80s, 90s. You could be a dishwasher and rent a room. You could still pay rent.
Okay.
You could go out to check out live music, do whatever the hell you want. There's a lot of partying. It's a college town. But over time, the tech scene started happening, and we had our first big boom in the 2000s and so forth. And now, I like to say it's a small city with big city problems. You know what I'm saying? We actually got a lot of cats from California moving there because of the tech industry. And opportunity, people move wherever there's opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do want to state something. So, as a lot of places, when new people move there, they usually get flack from the locals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it's driving up housing prices or any of that stuff. So, there's been some anti-California sentiment in Texas, but the truth of the matter is, it's the Texas politicians that came to California to woo those people over to Texas to get tax breaks.
Their scheme.
So you can blame the Texas politicians for that.
And
but people go, like I said, people go where there's opportunity, man. And so the city is booming. Okay. And I'd say for the last 10 years, really, we've had a lot of transient graffiti writers, a lot of people passing through. Okay. The scene's small. I could probably name like maybe 10 heavyweights that could hold their own, when it comes to piecing and stuff like that. But one thing that is really big right now with the younger generation would be street art. And I think a lot of that has to do with what's popular, and also maybe they can make some money at it. I don't know. So I always say, if you're doing graffiti these days, especially in Austin, Texas, it's because you love it. You love the art form.
Definitely. And for someone that might be listening that doesn't understand the difference between street art and graffiti, painting graffiti, can you share a little bit of light on that?
Well, for me, graffiti's about letters, man. It's about style. That's the generation I came up with. It's about style. you know, and you paid your dues, you put in the work. There was no Insta fame, you
Definitely.
know. Of course, we had no social media, but at the same time, to me, graffiti is about letters. It's about style. Sure, there's characters added to accent the piece, but it's about the piece, you know. And your piece is like it's your personality. Your style is your personality. You know, like me personally, I'm not gonna go out and bomb a whack style, you know, because that just reflects on me.
Yeah,
Either I'm
definitely.
lazy or I got no style, right? Or maybe I do anti-style. I don't know.
Yeah,
But for me, you know, graph is about style, man. And street art in the beginning in my city was more about weed paste and stencils,
okay,
and then stickers too, but really weed paste and stencils. And now, and that would be icons. You know, think Shepherd Ferry, Obey Giant. You know, for
okay.
instance, and you know, just take that icon, you know, and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until it kind of ingrained in your head. You know, oh, I recognize that. You know,
Yeah,
and put it up everywhere. You know, just like a tag. But at the same time, you know, one is an icon, one's a name. But these days, with the explosion of murals and the popularity of street art, I would say street art leans a little more towards muralism, and at least in my city,
okay.
and of course that's a whole nother ballgame because muralism has a long history,
Definitely.
yeah, especially in the Latino community. You
Yeah.
know, I could have a whole podcast on that. But what I'm saying is like in my city, a lot what I see a lot of the youngsters doing. It's interesting because when I started graffiti, man, it was almost an act of rebellion. You know, I love dressing up like a ninja in the middle of the night and casing a spot and getting in, getting out, catching a flick the next day, you know, et cetera. You know, this secret identity, this alter ego. You know what I'm saying? And now when I see in my city with the younger generation, it's more about getting art jobs, and it's about name dropping clients like, yo, I just did a gig for Facebook, you know.
Hey,
And hey, man, to each their own. I ain't knocking it.
hey,
But it's
Coca-Cola
interesting
just
to
hit
see
me up.
exactly. It's interesting to see how it's done a 180. In a
Okay.
lot of ways, I almost think street art and graffiti has become what it was set out to be against. But that's what happens to anything when it's underground and becomes mainstream. You know, think about the blues to rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of it's just the way society is. You know, we also have an older generation of people that grew up on graffiti, you know, and they want to expose that to their kids, and maybe their kids are painting. Like I'll just say this, man. Like we had this little like legal graffiti park for a little while. It was in the center of town,
Okay.
and
What was the name of it, if you don't
it
mind me?
was called Hope Outdoor Gallery.
Okay.
Right, Hope, a nonprofit helping out people everywhere. Some people would say helping our pocketbook expand, depending on who you're talking to. But regardless, that was a free for all spot. Maybe kind of like the Venice Wall,
Okay,
the beach
like
walls.
okay, like Venice Beach.
But I would see families come, and they would give their kids paint, and man, families from the east side to the suburbs and all around, and they would be Muslim were scribbling on stuff. But regardless, it was like, you know, that urge to like leave your mark on a wall, right?
Yeah.
But it was like little kids and families, and like I had never seen that.
I personally never seen something like that.
It freaked me out, you know. And then they would like pose in front of it, like they tag like the Wilsons,
Yeah.
you know, and then they'd like,
The mugshot.
yeah, I was like, whoa. But my point being that like that's just where we're at now, and that's how things are, man. Things expand, you know, and I'm all about art should be available to everyone, man. Whether it's street art, graffiti, finger painting, don't matter, man. You know.
I agree with you. And something that I love about the graffiti world is you get judged more on your style, right? On what you could actually do as an artist rather than what you look like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's something that I really love about graffiti. And the graffiti scene not being as popular as it is in LA and Houston, how does the cops take it? Like if they catch you, you know, catching a tag or a little throw it, do they get all politic or?
Oh man, there's a saying in Austin: if you get caught doing street art, they'll let you go. If you get caught doing graph, you're going to jail. And I would say that, you know, it's interesting because when I came up doing graffiti in Austin, this would have been early '90s.
Okay.
If you had a spray can, man, if you had a spray can in your hand, you were a thug. Period. You were no artist. You were
Really?
a criminal. You were a gangbanger, or you thug, or a
Okay.
drug dealer.
Oh wow.
Okay. The politicians, graffiti, you know, graffiti is a crime. It's not an art, all that stuff. The cops, the the public heroes, you know, all of that. So that's what we grew up with. Was you could say in a lot of ways is that, you know, we're getting hated on.
By your own state.
Yeah, by you know the general public.
Yeah.
But we didn't care because we knew we were doing art. You know, I used to always tell them, man, you pick up a can and try not to drip. You know what I mean? It's hard, man. Learning how to work a can and get can control, and
It takes time, man.
it takes time. I mean, I tell you what, man. I teach the youth. Sometimes I do workshops with the youth. You know, because I'm all about passing it on to the younger generation.
That's dope.
I'll tell you what, man. Out of all the people I've taught, maybe a small handful have graduated to piecing. You know why? Because piecing's hard, man. Graffiti's hard, man. To have a style, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to come up with a hand style, and that's the basis of everything. Of course, everything came from the tag.
I agree.
And then to a bubble letter. But from a bubble letter to a straight letter, and then a semi-wild style, and then a wild style, man, that takes dedication. That takes, you know, it's like that old saying, man, like I'm not a musician, right? I love music. I respect musicians. But if I want to be a musician, man, like let's say I want to play guitar, right? I got to buy a guitar or get a guitar.
Tune it,
and then I got to learn how to play it. You know what I'm saying? I can't just stand there with a guitar and look cool. Like, it don't work like that.
You're right.
And it's the same with piecing and graffiti and anything, really. That's where the dedication and the commitment comes into play. You know, like I didn't think I'd still be painting, man. I started late in the game, bro. I started when I was 17, man. And that's kind of late, you know. But I started when I started. And shit, man, I'm about to be 50 this year, dude. And I'm just like.
50 looking like 30?
Yeah. Well, hey, man, that's thanks to my mom. But regardless, man, it's like I can't quit, man. And to me, and this is just me, I don't care if it's legal, illegal. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm painting and creating something, okay? Now, for me in my own city, I lay low because, you know, I'm a three-peat.
Everybody knows you.
Yeah, well, I'm a three-peat. You know, the judge knows me.
Yeah.
And for me to get caught in my own city would be like shooting myself in the foot. But at the same time, to me, the essence of graffiti is the street. It is bombing, you know.
Yeah,
but to each their own, man. To each their own. You know, I look at it like this, man. You know, I've seen the changes in my city. You know, first it was graffiti versus street art. You know, kind of like skateboarders and rollerbladers. You know what I'm saying? And then it was legal versus illegal. You know, and the illegal kids were like, "Hey, as long as it's legal, it doesn't matter." And I'm like, "Well, it still looks like crap, but you know, whatever." But all these divisions and all these labels, at the end of the day, man, it's still people using a can, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's what you do with it. Like anything in life, it's what you do with it.
I definitely agree, brother. And you guys, not having big numbers out there when it comes to graffiti, are you guys unified as like Texas community graffiti, or will you guys say that you guys are like all doing your own thing?
I think there was more unity before the popularity of street art.
Okay.
And I'm not dissing on street art. I've already been through that phase. Okay. All right. I'm just an old graph head, man. I've already been through the bitter phase. I've been through all that stuff. And that bitterness just eats your soul and eats your creativity. Because it's not what happens, it's how we react, right?
Yeah.
So what I watched, like other cities too, worldwide really, I watched these communities of graffiti writers that grew up together, known for decades. And I watched them become separated when the street art came in because money.
Yeah, money's a rule.
I get it. It's just what happens, man.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, you know, in my city, we get along for the most part, man. Like I stay out of politics, bro. I'm here to paint, man.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
you.
here to paint, man. You know, it's like you got the drama and you got the art form.
Yeah. Choose one.
Choose one.
And coming from a place where graffiti wasn't really even accepted or wanted, what was available for you to paint out there?
Man, it was strictly the streets. It was tunnels. It was rooftops. It was anywhere we could where we wouldn't be messed with.
And as far as utensils, like, did you have like the Krylon or what was available?
Yeah, I grew up on Krylon, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Krylon head. Rusto later.
Yeah.
Rusto's great paint. Krylon used to be pretty good. Krylon, man, 100%. I grew up, my mentor taught me if you can't rock a piece with Krylon, high pressure, and stock cap, good luck. You know, that's just how we learned. I learned on stock caps. you know.
And that must
And-
be a mission trying to do
Oh
doing a piece of
man,
that,
dude,
all that stuff.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Like I was a toy for 5 years, man.
Yeah.
Like it took me, and of course everybody's different. Some people have natural progression, etc. These days, I think it's a lot easier, but it should be, right? Because
Yeah.
things evolve.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it took me a long time. I'm still learning, man. I'm still learning.
What do you think? What do you think would you say aside of can control? What was like the hardest part of developing your style?
I think you have to make a point to draw.
Okay.
I believe you have to draw before you can paint. Kind of like you got to crawl before you walk. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't do both, but drawing saves a lot of time, I think. And
Yeah.
yes, it's different taking it to the wall. You're a bigger scale, but at the same time, you know, it's like, man, I look back at my early stuff, dude. It's so bad, dude. My first piece, they told me, yeah, put shines on it, bro. I didn't stop,
Yeah.
you know, and it was a white background. Pretty soon, the whole thing was just white, like bling bling, you know.
Yeah.
It took so long. I mean, heck, dude, I remember seeing my first issue of Can Control in '91,
Okay.
and it was a skate tribute.
Mhm.
The cover was,
Okay.
and I can't remember who painted that canvas, but it was dedicated to skate for CBS.
Okay.
And I saw a little ad that said you could order tips. And we're like, what? Because you know we were stealing tips off whatever we could, household appliances. We go to Michael's and take caps off like the
The little Elmer cans.
yeah, all that stuff,
Yeah.
man. You know, and man, we ordered. I remember when we first saw German caps, man, we just freaked out, dude. We thought it was the coolest thing ever. But we loved New York thins, the Phantom caps,
Yeah.
and of course New York Fats. And you know, it just for us, man. You know, being in Austin, being in a small city of about 500,000, or maybe at that time probably about 300,000.
Okay.
Man, graffiti was like, dude, it was like this. At least for me, it was underground. It was archaic. It was secret. It was for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
And if you could hang, meaning put
Yeah,
in the work,
'cause a lot-
pay your dues.
A lot comes with
But man, they were rough, bro. Those first generation guys were mean to me. But you know, a lot of it was like that's how they learned. They had to learn on their own. And two, you know, they weren't just gonna give you tips and techniques.
Now you have to
know?
earn it.
You had to earn it. And that's why, you know, like for me, it was like, you know, how do I piece? You know, and Scam showed me, gave me an outline. You know, back in those days, it was all background to foreground. You know, of course, there's a million ways to paint.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, are you going to stick with this?
Are you
Because if
really-
I'm going to waste my time with you, man, are you going to stick with this? And, you know, I didn't really know. I just know that I loved it, man. I remember seeing, you know, Subway art, Spray Can Art, etc. IGT, International Graffiti
Okay.
Times. Dude, it's Star Wars. You know, you know, it blew me away, man. It just, see, I've been drawing since I was a kid. My dad was an artist.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
my dad was a really good illustrator. He's more of a technical illustrator.
Like cartoons and stuff?
Yeah,
like that?
just man, like, well, he really liked like the machinery of war, like ships and tanks and
Okay.
aircraft. He was in the service, so he would get into like those blueprint drawings.
Oh,
too,
dope.
You know, like the technical drawings.
Yeah, you're
It
getting
was
in there.
crazy, man. And his side of the family all came from artists. So I was drawing as I was a kid. But when I saw graffiti, man, the first time I saw graph was Beach Street.
Okay.
I think I was in 5th grade. And, you know, it rolls by on the train.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? You know? And, you know, that was that whole first wave that swept through the States of hip hop. But I was just always attracted to graffiti, man. It just, to me, graffiti's like, I'm here.
And
You
when
know? And I ain't going nowhere.
yeah, and it's something that I could share is like graffiti to me, brother. Like when I paint, it just puts me in a space that I feel like I belong in.
Yep.
You know, life could give you some fucking punches in the face sometimes, and
That's right.
a lot of people have their own way to take care of their problems. And with me, I feel like just painting puts my mind right, and it puts me in the right space, and I could come back to life and be like, all right, let's go
Yeah.
at it.
Word. I mean, graffiti's taught me so many things, man. I mean, I think one of the most important is, you know, nothing lasts forever. You know, and you know, hopefully I'll be remembered for how I treated people. Hopefully my style, I don't know. I don't really care these days, bro. I just paint. You know, there's so many good artists out there. Like when I come out here, man, I get inspired, dude. Like I've always felt like LA, when it comes to the West Coast, LA hands down, man. Y'all got so many talented writers out here. Different styles. Like, you know, it just mad respect. Like y'all really worked hard to separate yourself from New York. And y'all did, man. There's definitely LA styles.
Yeah, it's a whole different style than the original New York style. And what's crazy is that now, like any kid now that wants to start painting, like they could literally just go on Instagram, YouTube some style, look at some pictures, and develop styles from somewhere else without having a mentor. And I feel that's probably a reason why they might not embrace it as much, because they don't have to work so hard to be accepted by a mentor, as someone that's already a king or pieces, pass it down to you, and then you got to embrace it, because if you want to learn more, you got to earn that more knowledge.
That's right.
Rather than just go on there and a graffiti K, and then a bunch of them pop out, you know, and then just come up with your own. So
exactly,
times have changed.
They have, and that's life, right? Things evolve, things change. It's just the way it is. I always say it just means I'm getting older, you know, because I used to consider myself like just I don't know about a graffiti purist, but, you know, I was like, this is the way it is. And, you know, as you get older, you realize, man, it doesn't matter what other people doing. What matters is what I'm doing. Am I still creating? Am I still painting? Or am I too busy looking at other people and trying to live my life by looking at them, and whether it's judging them or whatever? You know, it's like I always say, I'm only as good as my last piece, man. You know, I have some favorite pieces, but I have yet to get the masterpiece. And I don't think I ever will. And that's what keeps me going, man. Because just like you said, man, like graffiti has always been there for me, man. More than anything. If the can malfunctions, I get a new can. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like graffiti, it's like what Neon, my boy Neon said from the Bay, you know, it's like, he said, graffiti picked me. I didn't pick it, you know? And I think there's some truth in that for me, because to me, like graffiti is and it's cliche, but it's true. Yeah. It's like graffiti saved my life in a lot of ways. Yeah, it brought a lot of BS too. But at the end of the day, man, it was always there for me. And I had to be there for it. And I hope to still be there for it. Because the thing about graph for me is like there's no plateaus, right? Sure, you can master styles. But every time I think I got something going on, I either see something else or something else comes to my mind, and I realize, dude, you're still a beginner, right? To try to have that beginner mind, right? Yeah, I get into my routines of certain letter styles, blah, blah, blah. But there's so much more to learn, man.
And I think that's dope to have that mentality. Like, I still got to progress. That way it keeps you motivated to, like, go back at it again, throw another piece. And, like, this is what I was talking about last time. Like, telling yourself, like, you know, I could change this, I could change that, and keep working and working. It keeps you kind of, like, mentally alive.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's dope.
Especially when you travel and you see what other heads are doing.
How does that make you feel, bro? Knowing that you come from a place where graffiti was really not accepted and the consequences were bigger than anywhere else, and now being able to travel the world to paint.
Well, the first thing I think is I got to keep practicing. Because some of these youngsters, man, they're on fire, man.
Yeah, man.
And they're killing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's cool. That's what it's about. You know, any culture. Like, and that's another big thing, man, you know, and I don't want to be up here like, yo, back in the day, blah, blah, blah. Screw all that. I'm talking about today, but I do come from the culture aspect of hip hop and graffiti. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And this is my experience. When I came up with a mentor, he taught me certain things that were acceptable and not acceptable. Okay? Doesn't mean everybody practiced it. But, man, we didn't tag on churches. We didn't tag on cars. We didn't tag on homes. We didn't tag on mom and pop businesses. And we definitely didn't tag on murals, right?
Yeah.
It was about respect. Now, I'm not saying everybody followed that. Okay. But public property, like state property, trains, fair game. But it just, you know, if there was beef, you handled it. I mean, heck, man, you battled. I don't even know if people battle anymore. But you know, and maybe you would have to throw hands. You know, maybe it would come down to that. But you dealt with it. You didn't. It's just beef got dealt with, man. But you also got to remember, I was in a small scene, you know. But there was a level of respect, man. There was.
And I feel like we were losing that. The level of
big
respect.
Time. Big time, man. I see these days it's a free for all. And I get it. Some people say, good, there's no rules in graffiti. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, In some cities, you might get shot for going over them.
Yeah,
you know
bro,
what I'm saying? So, take it for what it's worth.
I've seen some cultural murals where like it's something very cultural, and you have a guy come and write a little tag,
Yeah.
and they go find his
We just
ass.
call that cheap fame, man.
Yeah, and it's
You
like,
know.
sheesh, man, these guys.
Well, it took you 2 days to do the mural. It took me 2 seconds. Yeah, well, you try to do the mural, But, to each their own, man. To each their own. And to answer your question, man, like, it has changed and things change. But at the same time, what's important is that people keep doing it. And that's all we can do as writers, and especially older writers, is just pass it on to the next generation. And what they do with it is up to them. But there are, at least for me, there was kind of customs and traditions of the art form,
Yeah,
It didn't just come out of nowhere. You should know your history.
definitely.
You should know, where it came from, and you should, more importantly, know your city.
Yeah,
I mean, that ass that you're rocking probably came from somebody else.
I would say that's important. Know your city. Know where you're at, what's around you, who's painting,
yeah.
who to be around and not around.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Not all cats are good cats.
Yeah, man. Because I come from a generation, brother, where we didn't have mentors. Me and my buddies, when we started painting, we didn't have mentors, so we had the luxury of having the internet. So we would like see, we would see like 50 millimeters
Sure.
and stuff like that, and we'll develop a style like a tag. And it took us a minute to develop an actual outline because we didn't have no mentors.
Yep.
So we'll go to the barnyard and see something and be like, "Damn, that looks dope, bro. I gotta get like that." And then just develop little by little by little. And some guys took different routes. They didn't stay true to the art form. But some of us, we kept going, bro. And little by little we developed. So on my end, I could say it was tough not having a mentor. And I feel like a mentor is important.
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing about the whole mentor thing was when I met Scam, and unfortunately, he passed away in '94. He was murdered in
Rest in
Houston.
peace.
But he, for whatever reason, he took interest in me and my friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy wrote Dice.
Shout out Dice.
And like I said, maybe we were just cheap labor to him. I don't know. Here's some young punks that want to learn.
Yeah.
I'll put them to work. But for us, it was an honor. You know what I'm saying? Because I couldn't obtain that. I did not know how to do a piece. I grew up looking at their work, and Scam in my book was always the top. So it was an honor, and that's just, how it was. And, but Scam was like, I ain't going to hold your hand, man. Here's an outline. Go paint it, dude.
You want it or you don't want it?
Exactly. You want it? Now it's your one shot. And that's how we learned. That's how they learned. I mean, they had nobody. They were just biting from Subway art and spray can art. And I just did what they did. I did the same thing. I mean, I still have, it's all tattered. I got a couple signatures. I think Revolt and Futura signed it, but it was an honor, But, man, like that was the basis. And then, like, I got to give a big shout out to my boy Saint. We started a crew called MBK, No
Shout out
Boundaries
Saint.
Crew. And Saint came from Albuquerque, and he was mentored by Agree, who was originally East Coast. Agree also mentored like Mike Giant and stuff like that.
Okay.
And when I met Saint in '94 when I came back from the Bay. And at that time, because what killed the first wave of graffiti was the gangbanging.
Oh, there was gangbanging?
Oh, yeah, man. Now, nothing on y'all's level. But, they were neighborhood gangs, and then it went from hip-hop to gangs, and then, a lot of those gangs, I believe, they all went to prison or died and became prison gangs. The prison gangs swallowed them up. But what I'm saying is that when I met Saint, man, graffiti was pretty dead in my city. When I started, graffiti was pretty dead, meaning, sure, there was tags, but it was all gang tags. Any art that was put up was usually dissed. There was a lot of rivalry. And so when I met Saint and I saw his work, I was super impressed, very talented. Immediately, there was a connection because it was like, yo, man, you and I are probably like one of the only writers in this city, man, at this time.
Okay. And we're talking what year?
94.
94.
And I said, we should start a crew. And he was like, yeah. And that's what we did. We went around Austin trying to recruit potential heads. And a lot of them we met in the skateboarding community. Rex, Worm, Jibs, Sort, etc.
And these guys were already piecing, or you had a mentor?
They were doodling. They were doodling. Yeah, like Worm used to write cause. He had a really nice hand style.
Okay.
Worm, I'm talking about Worm, the Freight King, later on and become, freight head. Still paints. Just talked to him last week.
Shout out Worm.
Oh, Worm. All them guys in my crew. I love them, man. And then there was also a girl I was dating at the time, and she wrote Maze, M-A-Z-E.
So you guys had a chick in the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that.
And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, but I believe she was the first female writer in Austin.
Oh, wow. So she carries the crown.
No, she come out, man. She come out, we go bombing and stuff like that. And she was good, man. Maze, Lady A, Andrea. So we had a good thing going, man. And I got to give a shout out to Saint, because Saint taught me a lot, man. He'll say that I taught him, but I think he's just being humble, man. Saint taught me a lot. I learned a lot. I learned better can control. I learned more tips. I learned more history. Saint is a phenomenal artist. He's a great guy, humble dude. He's been doing tats for the last 20 plus years.
Okay.
Got a shop in San Antonio, Eternal Courage. Great people, still paints. But Saint, in my opinion, influenced the state of Texas. That's how good he was. And yes, Texas had scenes back then, especially El Paso, Grave and Durock and Skew and those cats. But when Saint moved to Austin, man, like that's when we started traveling to other cities like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. Because back then, man, it was all magazines and hard copies, pictures.
Hard copy?
Yeah, you had to mail each other, snail mail.
Oh, you guys would mail each other pictures?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
94, actually, Saint turned me on to art crimes.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I ain't going to sit and look at a computer. I'm going to be out here painting.
Yeah.
Now look at us, fucking zombies with our phones.
What magazine was cracking back then for graffiti?
Oh, man, there was Can Control. And then later it would come 12 Ounce Profit.
12 Ounce Profit.
There was Phantom. There was Crazy Kings. I know there's other ones. I just can't think about it. But the big one was, for the West Coast, it was Can Control. Okay. Power CBS put that out.
Oh, Power.
Yeah, he's an old school head. And I believe he was CBS. But yeah, man, it's just, that's how it was. And if you got your picture in that magazine, it was like winning the Academy Award, dude.
Hey, check me out. Yeah. Like, hey, guess who made it to the magazine this week?
Yeah, but we were all stoked on FX Crew. Like back in the 90s, man, it was FX Crew. And then, of course, 2000 it would have been MSK, Seventh Letter, and other crews too, of course. But, just the ones that got a lot of attention. And, that's how we found out about Purr and all those cats, rest in peace. But yeah, man, I mean, we were kind of in the middle. And at that time, everything kind of trickled to us.
And when you mentioned you guys were moving around to paint, is this in your teen years or you were already?
I would have been probably 21.
Oh, so you
early
were
20s.
Oh, I thought you were moving around like 16.
Yeah, no. Saint had a big old truck, and we would just go to different cities and paint. And the scene was so small back then, man. So it was really a big deal, to like link up with other writers, man. It was like if I knew that you wrote and you knew that I wrote, immediately we had a bond,
What are the gangs ever give you guys problems? Like, hey, get out of here. Or what are you guys doing right here?
I believe my past was Scam was my mentor. Because we had a spot in Austin on the east side that was this compound, and we got permission to paint it. And for a while, it kind of became like the Wall of Fame. And the first initial opening or launch of that spot, there was gangbangers and there was crew members. But over time, the graph heads took it over. And it was funny because, the bangers would drive by and they'd mad dog us.
Hey, man.
Yeah. But they wouldn't do shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's because they knew that I had come up under Scam, because like I said, it's a small scene. But because Scam had some affiliations back in the day. But nevertheless, the thing that made MBK so special in my city is everybody had their own style. We didn't really have a crew style. And when we all came together, it showed, and you couldn't deny it, man. Saint, my book was a king, man, still is.
Shout out Saint, man. And can you share Sloke? Where did that name come from?
It's funny. So I've always liked S's, of course. Scheme, scene, S's. I like the fluidity of an S. It's like, it is like a snake.
Somewhat, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I tried a lot of names, man. I look back, they're so stupid. Smiley, Sleepy, which, are really gangbanger nicknames,
You go, hey, what do you write? I write Sleepy.
Yeah. Big respect to Big Sleeps, man. I just went to that show, Alphabet Soup.
Yeah, tell you
the
about
other day.
Big Sleeps K2S?
Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah,
Ooh, they boys be killing it. Anyway, Shark. Just stupid stuff, man. It was a toy. But eventually I settled on Sloke. And I'd say the reason I did was, one, I love S's, K's, and E's.
Okay.
But there was already a ski, right, from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And there was already a SEC in Austin, SEK. So my bombing name was Kes, Kes. I just spun it around. But I said, man, I want to take those 3 letters. And back then, it was like you had to come up with a name or it was given to you, right? But you did not take a name that was already established. Like I wouldn't write Scene or Phase 2, or whatever. And it's so funny, man. It's like just a piece of paper and a pencil. And I started writing out letters that I liked. And then I tried to make words out of those letters. And then Sloke. And I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And to me, Sloke was more of a play on cloak, because I used to like that comic book Cloak and Dagger. And that's how I looked at bombing. I looked at bombing as being very secretive, right? You kind of just, you dressed, whether it's a cloak or a hoodie, whatever, dude, and you're out bombing, and you don't go tell people you do graffiti.
Yeah, that
was the big thing, one, because it's illegal, but 2, it was a mystery, and there was a lot of,
like, who's Sloke? I wonder what it looks like.
Yeah, who's Sloke? Sloke hit us again. It comes like Zorro's crap.
And then you got this guy.
The Z with an S.
You got this guy. Hey, he sounds Chinese. Sloke?
Yeah, exactly. And so I started writing Sloke. And then when, about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, this kid I met from Dallas, nice kid. I can't remember what he wrote. He goes, because, by this time it's the internet and stuff. And you can go Google stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I never once thought to look it up in a dictionary. Just Sloke. I thought I made it up. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is Sloke? Well, he hit me up and he said, hey, man, I looked up your name and it means pond scum. Like algae. It's the algae that grows on top of like a pond or a running stream of water, the green stuff,
Okay.
It could also be seaweed, and they also, in Norway, they make a soup out of it, Sloke. But regardless, it's algae, and I thought, pond scum.
Did you believe him right away, or you're like,
I had to go look. But I take that as an honor. You know why? Because back in the day, my skateboarding days, we had a team, because back then teams were like, team this, team that. Yeah. And we were Team Scum. So it all kind of came full circle, man, and I do remember, it's really interesting, man, because Saint told me, yeah, man, there's some dude, some tag banger in LA that writes Sloke. And I always kept that in the back of my mind. And then 2 days ago, I was painting with Thus and Drop and Dispel and Runs over in K-Town.
Okay.
And Thus came up to me and goes, you write Sloke? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I thought you were this other dude. And we don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he was talking about the guy that Saint was talking about back in the day from LA.
Oh, he's still active?
I don't think he's still active. But because I was asking him, I said, was this back in the 90s? And Thus was like, yeah, man. And he goes, yeah, you look a lot different.
It's 2022.
Yeah. And but see, that's kind of the cool thing, things start getting pieced together over time. You know what I'm saying? Like, had I known it was pond scum, I never would have chose it. But I like the letters, and to think that, it's almost like there's a reason for everything, if you want to look at it like that.
Definitely, because that question gets asked a lot, and for me, it was just hitting up on a paper, like just doodling for a couple of days till you finally figure out, like, yeah, I like that.
That's right. That's right, man. And it's funny. I got one more quick story. So I don't know, about 10, 12 years ago, I got messaged on Facebook by this kid. Mm-hmm. And he said, hello, my name's so-and-so, and do you like this? And this kid had taken a letter from each one of my pieces, so 5 different pieces, and put it together in a piece and painted it. And at first I was like, yo, What's going on? You bit me. Yeah. And then I realized I was talking to like a 14-year-old, man.
Okay.
And it was an honor, dude. And he was like, I like your style, and I just wanted to. And I said, and he was asking me if he could write it. Can I start writing Sloke? And that's the way, I mean, to me, I was flattered, dude.
Yeah.
I said, you can write Sloke too. I think he's in Colombia. So maybe one day, hopefully he's still writing. But it was an honor, man. At first I was insulted, because, oh, you biting my style, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, the kid just wanted to learn. And it was an honor, man.
And what do you say to that, bro? Because I know that that's something that's very common nowadays. Like, for example, you take a name like Risk. There's a lot of risks out there.
Oh, yeah.
You take a name that you work so hard to develop, right, and put work for it. How does that make you feel knowing that someone out there is like, man, fuck that guy Sloke. I'm the new Sloke.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It is what it is, man. I mean, there's a Sloke in Vegas, there's a Sloke in Russia.
Okay.
As long as I've been writing that name, I mean, it's almost like this, man. Graffiti, in a lot of ways, is meant to be given away. It really is. I'm not saying I want everyone to take my name. That's not what I'm saying. Am I happy about it? Not really. I worked hard to develop my style and my name, but it is a word. And I don't own the English dictionary or language. And I think you should come up with an original name if you can. I mean, good luck these days. There's so many names that have been taken. But yeah, I mean, I hear you, man. We got a Risk in San Antonio, and he's a cool cat, man. But he told me he got permission from Risky out here, And, I don't know, man. It is what it is. I mean, it's kind of like, graffiti's like herding cats, man. Like, you ain't going to be able to control it, dude.
Yeah, and I feel like we get to an age, bro, where like, I can't be right there trying to throw it down with everybody that's trying to take my name because I'm not going to get nowhere.
Nowhere. Like I said, man, it's not about what other cats are doing. Unless they, step onto my side of the street.
Yeah.
It's what I'm doing today. And when I take that approach of focusing on staying in my lane and focus on what I want to develop, life's a lot easier, man.
I totally agree with you, brother. And how do you see graffiti now? Like, what would you say about graffiti now, the generation now? What is your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's definitely changed. Like everything changes. I think it in a lot of ways it's advanced. I miss the wild style days, I'll tell you that. I think a lot of graph, well, first of all, there's a lot of different styles, and there's a lot of different people that paint graffiti.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I seen this guy, bro. He popped on my Instagram feed. This guy gets the fat cap, what's the see-through one called? The Astro cap?
Yep.
And that's all he uses to do his whole piece.
You talking about Helio Bray or whatever?
Yeah,
oh man, that guy's can control is amazing.
I was checking him out, like, that's all he uses.
Yeah, I've seen his pieces in person, man. They're clean.
Oh, you've seen them?
Yeah. I was in Milan. He had painted in Milan. He's from Portugal, Lisbon. But yeah, he's dope. He's very talented, very good can control. To answer your question, man, I think what's happened is it was underground and now it's mainstream.
Okay.
And so in my city and abroad, you see artists or civilians picking up a can and trying it out. So in a lot of ways, the spray can has just become another tool. Okay. It's another, like a paintbrush.
Another medium.
Another medium. And I'm not crazy about street art, but I respect good art. And there's a lot of good art out there, like the portraits and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff
and it's all opinion, of course, right? Art's subjective. But like, there's certain things I like, man. I'm not anti-street art, but I come from graffiti, and to me, that's two different worlds. I always say graffiti is like a punch in the mouth, as street art is a kiss on the cheek.
That's the first time I heard that one.
I mean, it's just two different worlds. They cross over sometimes, but my point is, there's very talented people in both worlds, and the spray can has just become another tool. Graffiti, in a lot of ways, I think. Of course, social media changed it, but let's face it, it's a platform to reach more people, right?
Yeah.
Modern day magazine.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of styles, in some ways, depending on who you're talking about and what region and what trend, simpler letters, more effects. But if you strip away the effects and the letters aren't strong, it's just makeup.
And that's something that I struggle with that I could share coming up. Like, you could structure some letters that look good, but if you don't got the effects and the 3D and the shade on right and you're flaring in colors, it doesn't really work.
True that, but there's also, and I lean more to this school of thought. If you really want to break it down, just do silver and black. Because that's really
The silver's
the basis.
dope, bro.
Oh, I love silver.
Silver looks dope when you just shade it with silver. It takes up everything. Like,
it covers everything. But the main thing is just having fun, man. I mean, like I said, man, like I got so much more to learn. There's so many talented artists out there, and life's short, man. You got to live it up, man.
Definitely.
Especially after everything we've all been through the last couple of years, man, with the pandemic and everything, I love seeing all the bombers come out and just crush the cities, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's never going to go away.
Yeah, man, it's amazing sometimes. What can you say about a younger Sloke and Sloke today regarding beef? You think beef to you still will hold you down like it would have before?
Younger Sloke was wild, crazy, liked to battle.
I wish we could see more of that battling.
I remember battling this dude. I was talking smack to this one kid, and we had beef with the crew, and I was at a party, and he was there, and I was very lucky I didn't get jumped by 30 gang members that night.
Oh, wow.
But the guy that was throwing the party came out and said, I'm tired of listening to y'all. Prove it. I got a wall in the back, and I got some paint, and we went at it. But, life's a trip, man. I didn't think I'd make it this far. I'm very, very lucky to still be alive. A lot of my friends aren't. They're dead or in prison.
Sorry to hear that.
And, I got caught up in the game, man. And my experience with the game is that there's three options, You either die or you go to prison or you get out. And getting out's hard, man. It's hard. And that's why I said graffiti was always there for me. It was always there. Whenever things fell apart or the house burnt down, so to speak, graffiti was there looking at me like, when are you going to pick me up, man? When are you going to pick me up and use me? Come on, let's create.
Put me in, coach.
That's right. That's right. So nowadays, younger Sloke, crazy, That's funny, man. It's like we were trying to relive Star Wars.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. Like, we wanted to be seen and scheme in those dudes. We wanted, of course, we didn't have subways in Austin, but we wanted to, it was about us, man. It was about the culture. It was about getting up. It was like, screw you, we're here, and we're not going nowhere.
I feel you on that.
So there was all that, but at the same time, that transitioned, because I've always been into art. That transitioned into, and I didn't expect this, but transitioned into a career doing art for a living. Of course, that's a whole nother ballgame. But it was a good launching pad, graffiti, And there's so many experiences. Some of my best experiences in my life come from graffiti. Some bad ones too. But the people I've met, the places I've traveled, it's been phenomenal so far. So fast forward to today, man, like I said, I try to stay in my lane. Yeah. I don't know who's hot in the graffiti world right now, man. I mean, there's too much information on Instagram. Yeah. There's too many burners. You know what I'm saying? I follow some cats.
Who's this guy that tells you the whole rundown? Oh, he got down last night. What do?
I don't know, man. This is information overload. Like I said, there's so many talented artists out there in the world. Your neighbor could be a Picasso and not be on social media, and you wouldn't even know it. You know what I'm saying? So these days, man, I just I had to go back to why I was in it in the first place, man. And that's because I love it and it's fun. If you're not having fun, man, if I'm not having fun, I need to check myself.
It's time to do something else.
That's right.
How did younger Sloke tell his mom and dad, hey, mom and dad, I paint?
I'll never forget, man. So the first time I got popped, right? I got popped in these tunnels with my boy Dice, and it was just random, man. The cops even said it, we never come down here. Some hobo was catching pigeons, and we got a call, and we saw y'all painting, They didn't like it. Of course, their son was in jail. But once I started getting better and doing things with the community, like art shows, my mom told me she was proud. And I want to share something real quick. So about 2 months, I'm going to turn 50.
Okay.
And I never thought I would make it this long so far.
Knock on wood real quick.
But I will never forget, I was 17. And I remember going to those same tunnels I got busted in and doing a big piece with stock caps. Best I could. It said my dad's name, Robert, and it said Big 50. And I'll never forget that because I took him down. I said, Dad, I want to show you something. And I took him down to those tunnels and I showed it to him. And he was just blown away. And now I'm going to be 50. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty of life. It's like, it's just a big cycle. Unfortunately, I lost my pops in 2005 to lung cancer, but he was my inspiration to jump into the art world for real. Because I thought about it. I said, what's keeping me back? Fear, right?
From going from a graffiti writer
to artist.
To artist.
Why? Because I'm afraid of what you're going to think about me and my art.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, I'd been putting my art in public all along. I just didn't attach my face to it. Obviously for legal reasons.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it didn't make sense. It was almost like graffiti got me ready to step out and be like, boom, let's do this. And it's been a really interesting journey, man.
How long ago did you make the transition?
It's been about 20 years now.
20 years now.
And I'll never forget one big moment was when the mayor and his wife bought a graffiti canvas from me, which I don't do graffiti on canvas anymore, but they bought a canvas and they said, oh no, we love graffiti. I was just, the mayor loves graffiti?
Say
now,
what?
Fast forward to now, that ain't no big deal now. But it blew me away. And that's one of the beauties of where we're at now. Because like I said, you just pass it on to the next generation, man.
What can you tell that kid that's sitting in Houston, Texas right now saying, I'm gonna start painting? And what would you tell that kid?
There's so much to tell a kid and they won't listen. But that's that's part of being a kid, right?
Yeah.
You tell them no, they're going to do it, right? I would just say know your history and learn to burn.
You being in the game this long, brother, and going through everything that you've gone through and your experiences, how would you feel having a son or a daughter telling you, hey, Dad, I paint?
Don't do it. Hey, man. It's interesting, man. I don't have any children. I would have. It just didn't. It didn't work out that way. I see older writers with their children today painting, and I think it's cool, man. But if I had a child, I'd probably only take him to legal walls. You get caught, I ain't bailing you out, man.
He finds his way to the.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's how it was. When I got arrested for graffiti, my mom, I'm in bail, click. Do the crime, do the time.
You're receiving a telephone call from a name. Hey, Mom, it's me.
Call collect.
Don't you ever call this number again.
Exactly. Oh man.
And man, it's a crazy adventure. Is there a chase story that you could share with us? Something that you probably think about today, like that? I cannot believe I was doing that.
Yeah, there's a couple, man. So we used to paint this freight spot about 40 minutes out of town. It's 40 minutes out of Austin, and it's in between these two towns, right? And back then it wasn't as developed. Mm-hmm. And you had the interstate, and we'd park, and then you'd have to hike, to the layup. Because in Austin, we never had yards. We just had layups, right? And I think the nearest yard would be Taylor, which is about an hour away. And, of course, San Antonio. San Antonio's got a big yard. And so there was a small little layup out of town, and we went at night. And this is my crew, MBK, No Boundaries crew. There was probably about 5 or 6 of us. Because it's like pitch black. Like back then, like, you know how it is bombing, man. You got to adjust your eyes. There ain't no using your cell phone light and stuff.
You're out there at midnight.
Yeah, it's pitch black.
Hearing shit that you don't even know what it is, but you just.
Well, remember having to label the cans and all that stuff. So anyway, we went out there and we started painting, and And then we get run up on by the bulls, you know, and they come hard, man. I don't even know how they saw us, man. They must, who knows? But we're running, man. We all split up in different directions. And my boy Summit, man. We all meet up back at the truck. And we're like, where's Summit, man? Where's Summit? And we're waiting, and, you know, there's no cell phones back then. So we're like waiting. We're like, we can't leave him, you know, and we're hoping he didn't get popped.
Yeah.
And then, because, you know, we almost got caught, man. But regardless, he shows up, and like, I don't know, 45 minutes later, he's all beat up, dude. He's like bleeding and stuff. And we're like, what happened, man? And you got to remember, man, this is Texas, right?
Yeah.
So we got some ranches.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You got like cattle.
In the
right?
South.
So what had happened was he had jumped over the fence to run away from the bulls, the UP bulls.
Yeah.
And he hears this, and he looks, and there's a real bull coming at him. And he had to run, and luckily he escaped.
Yeah.
But this is in pitch black. And so as he was running, he hit a barbed wire right here.
Oh.
And so he busted his lip. But no, man, I mean, I got a couple stories, man. I mean, in my town, I lay low. Lay low. I'd say, if anything, you know, I mean, to me, I still love getting up, but I wouldn't call myself a bomber these days.
Yeah.
I'm more of a, I guess what they call style rider. I got that called that in Europe. I was like, style rider. And I just love the piece, man. I love to paint. I did some track sides in Prague recently, like a couple weeks ago. You know, out there, it's no big deal, though. You know what I'm saying? Out there, it's almost like if you want to get clout, you got to do, you know, clean trains.
Out of all the places that you traveled to paint, which one you say stood out the most to you?
I love Portugal, man.
Portugal?
Yeah, Lisbon and Porto, man. I mean, every city I've been to, there's a story. And there's a lot of places I haven't been to yet that I'm planning on doing. But that has probably influenced my graffiti the most, is traveling and my crew members, the people I've met.
Dope. Is there anybody in Houston, Texas that you kind of see like, all right, I see you?
Oh, man. You know, we got the OGs in every Texas city.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Color, man. Color RTD, Creatures, SDK. Color has been holding it down for a long time, man. He's a tattoo artist too. He's actually the one that did my script.
Okay, dope.
But
how about an up and comer, like someone that just like barely is trying to build his name?
You know, I would say in my city, Austin, I would say there's a bomber who goes by the name of Tiles.
Tiles.
And he's killing it, man.
Shout out Tiles.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he does it right.
Where do you see graffiti going, though? Where do you see it, like, let's say 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Where do you see graffiti at?
I see it evolving, hopefully.
Okay.
I see it becoming just another art form.
Another art form?
Yeah, just another art form. Just like you know, oil painting or something. You know, I always get, you know, but it's beautiful, but what does it say? What does it mean? You know,
and there's people making big money off the graffiti culture.
That's right.
I was reading an article the other day with Banksy. So Banksy stenciled this little girl on a swing hanging from a parking sign that was hand drawn by somebody in the building in LA. And the couple bought the building to start whatever for like $4 million. And the pandemic hit and they went broke, so now they had to sell the building. But just because Banksy hit the side of that building, now it's estimated to hit $30 million.
Wow. For a simple stencil.
That to me was crazy. I even shared it on my page. I was like, whoa.
Don't believe the hype. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, man. I mean, me personally, when it comes to the big names in street art, I mean, Banksy put in work. I mean, I don't think it was cool that he went over Robbo.
Okay.
You know? I mean, you got to respect Robbo. I mean, I look at it like this, man. When it comes to street art, you know, graffiti's the mothership.
Yeah.
It all came from graffiti. And it's funny because in my city, some of the street artists are like, they're kind of like smug when it goes, oh, you do graffiti. And I'm like, whatever. And it's like, know your history. Yeah, man, graffiti's the mothership, man. And you just got to know your history, man. You know, I mean, it doesn't mean you got to agree with it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's good to know your history. I mean, if you're going to practice something, you should know where it comes from,
Yeah,
right?
you're not gonna be a doctor and not see what other doctors are doing.
Yeah, and I mean, cats like Banksy and Shepard Fairey, they put their work in, man, and good for them. But that's a whole nother ball game, man.
that's a whole- that's a whole
like the
different-
gallery world, man.
Yeah.
And that's run by a bunch of vultures, and I feel like I'll answer your question with this. Where do I see graffiti in the future? I hope that graffiti artists take the art form back. You know what I'm saying? I hope that this art form evolves and progresses with the artists, not cats that are trying to make money off the culture and the art form that have nothing to do with it. I don't need a wall curator, bro.
Definitely.
We got our own walls.
Yeah.
We either did them legally or illegally. It doesn't matter. You know,
Or a painting
I'm a wall
coordinator.
curator. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, well, I have a wall and I invite people to paint on it. Do you paint? No.
Have you ever painted? No.
Whatever, man. Like I said, I don't get into politics, but yeah, it's funny. It's a show now in some ways.
One thing I do want to see is something more economical for graffiti writers. Like to pay $5 for a camp, it's like I want to see it drop down to like something more affordable, like $2.50, $2.
Yeah, like wholesale prices.
Yeah, that way. So
Everything going up though, man. I was just in Europe, dude. Even over there, they've gone up.
oh really?
Because they used to be real cheap over there.
Because they're from out there, no? Like the
MTN, German, Montana, Belton, etc.
Before I let you get out of here, brother, I got a question that I'd like to ask. Favorite shoes to paint in?
Favorite shoes?
Favorite sneakers that you like to paint in, whether it's sandals?
Well, first of all, I think it's an art form keeping your sneakers clean and painting in them. Okay, if you can do that, man, props.
You're a pro.
I had a friend that would just rock white kicks, dude, and we would leave and they'd still be white. Like I can't keep anything. That's why I always wear black, right?
Yeah.
Maybe white in the summer, but it'll be all covered with paint.
Or a big old stain.
Yeah, exactly right. Big old yellow stain. But man, I probably gonna go with running shoes, man, because soul support, dude. Like
Yeah.
Adidas, man. They're a
Adidas.
little more comfortable than the Nikes for me. I mean, I'll rock the Nikes, but something with soul support, man. Like, and that tends to be the running shoes.
Dope.
You got to protect them feet.
Hell yeah, man, because that should be getting you out of shape, man. You better at least walk to the liquor store once a week to get the muscles going. But man, brother, thank you again for coming out here and representing for Houston, Texas. I appreciate
Austin.
your time. Austin, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's a big state.
And is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity, man. It's an
Anytime.
honor. When you reached out to me, it's just good timing. Happened to be in town, and it's good to finally meet you. And I think what you're doing is great, man. It's
Thank you.
important that we interview the artists and pass on the knowledge.
Yeah, and I try to make this more like a voice for our writers because everybody got something to say.
Yep.
And the odds of a young kid painting today meeting you are very slim, especially in LA.
Yeah.
It's very slim. So I try to give them the opportunity to get to know someone that's really about the life, and get some knowledge because nowadays I feel like things are all over the place.
Yeah, they are, and I agree with you. It like I said, man, knowledge is power, man. You got to know. It's good to know. I should say that. But in terms of a shout out, man, I want to give a shout out to I had to rep Tits Crew out here. I'm not Tits Crew. I don't know if I'm Tits Crew. Clown said I'm in Tits Crew, but I don't know. He was drunk.
Someone call him up. Let me know.
No, man, I give big props to Clown, Style, Jabber,
Shout out
CBS
Jabber.
Crew.
Shout out Jabber. He's a local. He's been down for a
my
minute.
boy Murs. There's so many heads, man. My mother crew, MBK, No Boundaries crew, Saint, Worm, Rex, Jibs, all my boys. My mother and father, the universe. I'm grateful to be alive and breathing after everything this world has been through in the last couple of years.
I hear you, man.
And along our journey, because like you said, we all got a story, man. And I just, to the younger generation, man, keep it going, man. And they are, these youngsters, man, they're killing it.
Yeah, man. Let's keep it going, and we'll see this fucking 200 years from now. You still got someone getting up on. Maybe there won't be freeways no more, but whatever it is, go get it.
Spaceships.
Man, this is Ronek. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's been subscribing, liking, and following the God No Control podcast. But we'll be dropping weekly. Stay tuned. I'm dropping more. And tap in with me on Instagram. You want to come on? DM me, reach out.